Hi there, guys and ghouls, and welcome to number 27 of the Paranormal Investigation Stories. All the stories are investigations which I personally have been involved in with several different groups and several different organisations within the paranormal world. The investigation I'm going to speak of now is one which was undertaken in a place called Fir Cottage, which was in a suburb of Preston in Lancashire. The house or the cottage belonged to a show jumper who went by the name of Angela Barrows, or her stage name, she preferred to be known as Angela Carrington. I was invited there that night by a group who I won't mention the name, but they invited me along as a guest medium to work alongside them. The group themselves prefer to remain anonymous for reasons, mainly social security reasons, but as I say, they wish to remain unknown. After arriving at Fir Cottage, we're greeted by several of the people there, and I met a guy called Halton. And Chris and I formed a bond, a friendship that lasted for many years, and to be fair, we're still friends to this day. Chris Halton is the founder and leader of a group called Haunted Earth down in Essex. If you want to look at their site on YouTube and check out some of Chris's videos on there with regard to the paranormal world, you may find what he has to say very interesting. Chris is a retired police superintendent, and let's be honest, the police don't lie, do they? About anything. But he was very much into the paranormal, and Haunted Earth have been running now for upwards of 20 years, and he has got a lot of things on the internet. Anyhow, with regard to Fir Cottage, as I say, the home was owned by a show jumper who I believe was a show jumper for the United Kingdom, for Britain, and had represented the country in quite a lot of major events. She'd rubbed shoulders with Princess Anne, Harvey Smith, etc., etc. Angela told us that the cottage was very, very haunted, and there were certain areas of the cottage where even she was afraid to go. Despite being a medium and being able to talk to the dead, Angela had fears and would many a time sleep on the settee in the living room, in the lounge, rather than to go down this corridor to her bed. Because the thought of going down the corridor basically terrified her. We went around, we did all the baseline tests, checking for loose floorboards, open windows, cracks in windows, anything which may create an atmosphere of dread, an atmosphere of a wind blowing on your face, that noisy floorboard. We needed to discount anything that could just be put down to plain logical terms. Nothing to do with the paranormal, just parts of the structure of the building. temperatures were taken, EMF meter readings were taken. We all sat in the lounge and we talked, and we decided the plan of action was to place motion detectors all the way down this particular corridor. In this corridor, it was quite a long stretch down to which was Angela's bedroom, and going off there were possibly 4 or 5 more rooms going down there. So we decided to put the motion detector on. So anything that broke the beam, the alarm would go off and we would know something was there. We also left a camera running to record events if anything happened. We returned to the room and we all sat round the old log fire, and we noticed that there were 2 huge boxes and each one had a horseshoe on top. And these were the cremated remains of Angela's favourite show jumping horses, which is quite strange in its own right, but they were there. The fire was burning away nicely, the smoke was rising up the chimney, the atmosphere in the cottage was okay, but there was a certain element of fear, an element of an enigma, a mystery, that something may or may not happen. But we all had a feeling that there was something watching us, some energy, something from the spirit world. We sat round on the floor in a circle and decided to hold a séance. We were holding hands, and John, one of the mediums, actually began speaking out. Is there anybody there? We don't mean you any harm, we don't mean you any disrespect. We just want information towards life after death. Is there anything beyond this? And if there's anyone here, can you let us know? And at this point, when John said, could you please make a sound, let us know, the motion detectors in the passageway went off. Several of us ran to the passage, and looking down towards Angela's bedroom, there appeared to be a shadow person just entering the doorway, as though stood in the doorway of Angela's bedroom. And as we walked down the corridor towards it, of course, it vanished into the ether. But we did have the camera running. And the camera picked up something which I think is probably still on Chris Halton's website. Something which became known as the corridor ghost. And right at the end of the corridor, you can see this shadow. You can see the motion detectors go off on film, and there's this figure, a shadowy figure in the doorway. But the odd thing about this figure is that you can see that he's some kind of cleric, some kind of monk. He's dressed from head to foot in a robe, and he has like a ruffled string around his cassock, whatever they're called, which is hanging down there. And then you can witness as the team go towards the camera that this entity, this energy, whatever it is, just vanishes into the ether. We came back into the room, sat by the fire again, we entered into the alpha state of meditation with the spirit world. We called out again, is there anybody here? Can you please make a noise? Cameras flashed. Many people that were there said that they picked up orbs. They thought they could see different shapes within the photographs. There was smoke coming from the fire, and several people said they could see faces within the smoke, which may well have been faces, or it may well have been pareidolia. as a lot of these things are, in where your mind sees a smoky atmosphere, misty, foggy, whatever, and automatically uploads an image of a face or whatever within that mist and smoke. I'm not saying that there weren't figures within that smoke. I'm just saying there's a possibility that it could have been pareidolia. We sat in a circle again and we all held hands. And John again called out, "Is there anybody there? If there is anybody here, can you please make a sound? Can you touch one of us? Can you let us know that you're here?" And at this point, one of the ladies who was present, Barbara she was called, she kind of screamed. Because again, as John had asked, "Can you touch us?" she felt someone grab her hair and pull. And again, we've no reason to doubt that this didn't actually happen. Whether it's all thought forms which are fed into your mind, or the ghost is actually there, the spirit, and is actually tugging the hair. Both people at either side of her, there was a lad called Matthew and another one called Paul, and both of them said that they felt very, very cold. At the moment she'd been touched, they felt like an icy wind blow over her hands onto theirs, and both of them had the hair on their arms was standing up. One of the investigators decided to go down the corridor towards Angela's bedroom, and while he was walking down there, he let out a shout, and he claims that he was attacked by a spirit, an energy that tried to push him out of the way. Whether this again was fact or not, I don't know, because this particular person had the ability of becoming possessed on every investigation that we did. A bit like Derek Cora from Most Haunted. So it was hard to believe and hard to understand whether this was genuine or not. However, we must give him the benefit of the doubt. He was the one that felt the push. After that, we decided that there was a small kind of utility room down this corridor where spirits had been seen, or a spirit had been seen. So we asked people if they were prepared to do a solo challenge, which basically meant them going into that room, meditating into the alpha state, chatting with the spirit world and seeing what they picked up. 3 people, including myself, agreed to do the solo challenge. We were taken down, we were placed in the room on a chair. There was a member of the investigation team sat outside the room in case we needed to get out in a rush, in case people panicked. And he also wrote down everything that we had said. As each person went in, he made a record of exactly what we had experienced and what we had heard, if anything. After this experiment was over, we went back into the lounge and we decided to look at the evidence from this utility room. And oddly enough, all 3 people who went in reported seeing the identical thing, which was a young woman with very long curly blonde hair, wearing a kind of maid's outfit. We all had the same experience, and we all heard the same thing, that she had actually died there. One of the previous owners of the cottage had actually taken her life, and she was buried somewhere within the grounds. Now Fir Cottage had quite a lot of area with it, so we decided to go outside to see if any of us could pick anything up on the boundary, the perimeters of the cottage, the woodland close by. It was at this point that Chris Halton actually felt the presence of a spirit, and he claims that he actually touched the tailcoat. This guy was dressed in old Victorian gear, like a tailcoat, and he mentioned him having a stovepipe hat, which of course was like a top hat but much taller. And he claims that as he grabbed the tailcoat, this spirit leapt out of his way and actually ascended onto the roof of the building, and he looked down and then vanished. And of course the tailcoats and stovepipe hats would, in effect, have been worn in Victorian times, which is when this young girl, who appeared to be dressed as a servant, had her life taken. While we were outside, we took a lot of pictures and we got a lot of orbs. But you were talking 4:30, 5 in the morning. It was cold. There was a certain amount of dew about on the grass. So the orbs may have merely been moisture in the air. Or they could have been sentient energy, as we've said before. There's a school of thought that there are no such things. And they say it's moisture, insects, dust, camera refraction. But then there's the other school that say they are sentient energy. And if you look on Chris Halton's website, Haunted Earth, you will actually see videos there of orbs which appear to command, which to me would show that they are sentient. We're all getting a bit cold, so we went back into the lounge area to sit by the fire. Angela made us all coffee or tea. One of the others, who was called Nicole, she made us some bacon sandwiches, and we all settled down and chilled out. And then somebody said, look at the window. There was like a patio window, French window, that went out onto a patio and then into the garden. And as we looked, there was a figure very, very similar to a monk again, staring through the window at us. And this figure has actually been caught on camera. And again, I think it will be on Chris Halton's Haunted Earth website or his YouTube page. We all stopped what we were doing, went outside, but of course the energy had gone. We decided to call it a day. Everyone was getting tired. We all sat around chatting, looking at the cameras, looking at videos, pictures, and we all agreed that it had been a very, very interesting investigation, and that Fir Cottage certainly had not been disappointing. We had, after all, caught evidence on film, and I'm hoping that Chris does have that on his Haunted Earth site. And I would advise you to look at his YouTube page, because he does have some very interesting stuff on there. I thank you all again for listening. Please subscribe to the channel. Get your friends to subscribe to the channel. Click like if you liked it. Please feel free to leave a comment. Please feel free to ask me if there's anything you would like me to talk about within the paranormal world. If there are any areas of interest like tarot cards or Ouija boards, pendulums, I'm more than willing to give any advice that I am able to. So thank you once again. I really do appreciate your time. Take care, stay safe and look after yourselves. Namaste.